Resurrection, Mary, the girl who never reached home. Chapter 1. The ride that should not have happened. People who drive Archer Avenue late at night learn something quickly. The road feels longer after midnight. The streetlights seem farther apart. The wind coming off the empty lots carries a smell like cold iron. And when you pass Resurrection Cemetery, the dark between the trees looks deeper than it should, like the night has more layers there. I grew up hearing the story the way you hear any local legend. Half joke, half warning. A girl in a white dress. A ride home. A cemetery gate. An empty seat where someone had been a moment ago. My friends told it in the parking lot after dances, leaning against warm car hoods, laughing too loudly to prove we weren't scared. Adults mentioned it with a quick shake of the head, and as if saying the name out loud might invite bad luck. Resurrection Mary. I believed in tired eyes and tricks of light. I believed people misremembered when they were cold and half drunk and driving too fast. I believed that until the night I stopped. It was just after midnight in late fall, cold enough that the air bit my lungs when I inhaled. I had stayed later than I meant to at a friend's place on the south side. The quickest route home was Archer. I told myself the cemetery was only a stretch of fence. I told myself I had driven past it 100 times. The radio was low. The road ahead was empty. Then I saw her. She stood under a streetlight on the right shoulder, a thin figure in a white dress that caught the glow and held it. One arm raised, not waving wildly, just lifted as if she expected someone decent to stop. She wasn't running. She wasn't panicking. She was waiting with quiet certainty. I slowed before I decided to. The tires whispered over the asphalt. "Are you okay?" I called through the cracked window. She stepped closer. Her face was pale, pretty in a careful way, hair pinned back as if for a dance. She looked too clean for the shoulder of Archer Avenue, too out of time. "Yes," she said. "Could you please give me a ride?" Her voice was soft, not afraid, tired. I should have driven on. I didn't. I unlocked the door. She got in without a sound, as if the car had been waiting for her too. "My name is Mary," she said. The door closed, and the warmth in my car slipped away. Chapter 2. The Cold Passenger. Mary sat with her hands folded neatly in her lap, posture straight, eyes fixed on the road ahead. The dress she wore was old-fashioned. Thin fabric made for a dance hall, not for standing beside a highway in freezing air. She didn't shiver. She didn't rub her arms. She didn't breathe like the cold bothered her at all. I tried to make small talk, the way you do when you pick up someone stranded. "Did your car break down?" I asked. "Do you have someone I can call?" Mary shook her head once. "No phone," she said, like it was a fact from another era. Then, after a pause, "Just drive." "Where are you headed?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "Just past the cemetery," she said. "Not far." Something in my stomach tightened. Resurrection Cemetery isn't just past anything. It's a destination people avoid at night, a stretch of fence and headstones that makes even the bravest teenagers speak a little softer. But I forced my tone casual. "Were you at a party?" I asked. Mary's lips pressed into the hint of a smile. "A dance," she said. The word sounded wrong in my modern car, on this empty road. A dance. Like we were in a different decade and someone had simply forgotten to update her. I glanced at the heater controls. The fan was on high, and still the air felt colder with every mile. It wasn't like a draft from a window. It felt as if the cold was coming from the passenger seat itself, spreading out in slow waves. The radio crackled as the signal thinned. A burst of static cut through, sharp enough to make me flinch. Mary flinched too. But it wasn't surprise. It looked like pain. "Could you turn that off?" she asked quickly. I shut the radio down. Silence dropped into the car, heavy and immediate. In that silence, I noticed something else. Mary's reflection in the passenger window didn't match her exactly. It was paler, yes, but also softer at the edges, like the glass couldn't decide where she ended. When we passed a streetlight, her reflection lagged behind her by a fraction of a second, as if it was thinking. We passed the sign, Resurrection Cemetery. Next right. Mary's fingers tightened on her lap. I watched them because I didn't want to watch the fence coming into view. Slow down, she whispered. I eased off the gas. Chapter 3. At the gate. The car rolled beside the cemetery entrance at a crawl. Iron gates rose on either side of a narrow drive, and beyond them headstones lined up in rows like teeth. The trees inside were bare, branches reaching up like hands. Here, Mary said suddenly. You can stop here. I pulled over. My headlights washed the gate in white light. No one else was around. No cars, no pedestrians, no movement at all except a branch swaying slowly as if something had brushed past it. This is it? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. You're going in there? Mary looked at me then. Her eyes were dark and reflective, like wet stone. Thank you, she said. Then, softer, you shouldn't be out so late. It sounded like a warning someone gives when they already know what happens if you ignore it. I reached toward the passenger lock, not even sure why. Before I touched it, Mary's hand brushed my wrist. Her skin was ice cold. Not winter cold. Not cold hands. It was like touching metal kept in a freezer. A shock shot up my arm and stole my breath. My first instinct was to jerk away. Hey, Mary didn't react. If anything, she looked sad. She opened the door. Cold rushed in from outside, and somehow the air felt warmer with it, as if the cold inside my car had come from her. Mary stepped out. The white dress glowed beneath the streetlight. She walked toward the gate with slow, careful steps, as if every step mattered. Halfway there, she vanished, not faded, not dissolved, gone. The passenger seat was empty. The door hung open. My heater suddenly felt like it was working again, warm air brushing my ankles. I sat frozen, staring at the spot where she had been. Then I did the stupidest thing a person can do. I looked in the rearview mirror. For a heartbeat, I saw her in the back seat, head bowed, hands folded the same way, like she had always been there. I blinked. The back seat was empty. I shut the passenger door with shaking hands and drove away. Chapter 4. The Legend Finds You. The next day I tried to tell the story like it was a weird coincidence, like it was funny, like it hadn't left my arm tingling where her skin touched mine. The first person I told didn't laugh. They got quiet, the way people do when a joke steps too close to something real. That was Resurrection Mary, they said. The name hit me like cold water. After that, it came up everywhere. In the diner near my work, in the break room, in a bar where someone recognized my car and asked why I looked like I hadn't slept. Different voices, same bones. A girl in a white dress. A ride. The cemetery gate. The vanishing. Some versions added details. A coat left behind with a dance ticket in the pocket. A door handle ripped clean off as if yanked by an invisible hand. A driver who swore the girl said, "Please don't leave me again." Older people spoke of a dance hall decades ago. A girl who left early. A driver who didn't see her crossing. Headlights. Impact. A life ended too suddenly. "She's not angry," an old man told me, stirring coffee with shaking hands. "She's just not done." I started avoiding Archer Avenue. I took longer routes. I drove through brighter streets at night even if it added 20 minutes. I told myself distance would protect me. But stories like that don't end because you change roads. They end when they're finished with you. Chapter 5. The Knock. 2 weeks later, I woke to a sound that didn't belong in my apartment. Knock, knock. Soft, careful, like someone trying not to disturb neighbors. And my eyes snapped open. The room was dark. The clock read 3:12 a.m. The number felt sharp as if it had meaning I hadn't learned yet. I lay still, listening. Knock, knock. It came from the front door. I sat up, heart hammering. My mouth was dry. I told myself it was a neighbor. A mistake. Someone drunk on the wrong floor. Then I heard a whisper from the hallway outside my bedroom. My name. Not loud enough to be practical. Intimate. Like breath near your ear. My skin went cold the same way it had in the car. Mary. I did not answer. The knocking stopped after a long minute, like whoever was out there had decided to wait for another night. In the morning, the hallway was empty. The lock was fine, but when I opened my door, I caught a faint scent. Old perfume, sweet and powdery, mixed with the sharp smell of winter air. And I understood something I hadn't wanted to admit. The ride hadn't ended at the cemetery. It had only started there. Chapter 6. The detour months passed. Winter settled in. My fear dulled into something smaller, something I could pretend was anxiety. I told myself the knocking had been a dream. I told myself I was stressed. I told myself 100 lies. They almost worked. Then came the detour. Roadwork forced a turn I didn't expect. I followed signs and ended up on a stretch of Archer before I realized. The cemetery fence slid into view like a black line drawn too straight. The streetlights looked farther apart, and the darkness between them felt thick. My hands tightened on the wheel. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I would pass quickly. The engine sputtered once, coughed, died. The dashboard lights flickered. The radio went silent. I turned the key again. Nothing. The air inside the car cooled rapidly. The windshield fogged from the inside, not from breath, more like the glass itself was exhaling. Then the passenger door unlocked with a soft click. I didn't touch it. I felt the presence before I saw her, like the air had gained weight. Mary stood beside the car, close enough that the streetlight painted her dress in pale gold. She leaned toward the window. Her breath did not fog the glass. "You promised," she said gently. "I never promised," I whispered. She tilted her head, listening as if my words mattered. "You stopped," she said. "That's the same thing." The passenger door opened on its own. I should have run. Instead, I stayed. Mary slid into the seat, smooth and silent. The moment she sat, the engine started. Not with my key, with hers. Chapter 7. The Dance That Never Ended. We drove toward the cemetery in silence. The headlights cut a narrow tunnel through the dark. The heater blew, but the air remained cold, as if warmth wasn't allowed to touch her. "Why do you come back?" I asked, forcing words into the heavy air. "Why are you always there?" Mary stared ahead. "I never made it home," she said. "They kept dancing." The words didn't make sense until my mind filled with images that weren't mine. A dance hall with bright lights, music spilling into the parking lot, a girl laughing, cheeks flushed, stepping outside for air, the door closing behind her, cutting off the sound, the cold night swallowing the music, headlights sweeping, a horn blaring, impact, the sensation of falling, of the world becoming pavement, of the air leaving your lungs in a single shocked gasp. Mary's fingers tightened on her lap. "They didn't notice," she whispered. "Not at first. The song changed. They kept dancing." I swallowed hard. "So, you're looking for someone?" I asked. Mary turned her eyes to me. In them was something older than her face. "I'm looking for the ride that brings me back," she said, "just for a moment." "To where?" I asked, voice small. She didn't answer. The cemetery gate grew larger in the headlights. "Slow down," she whispered. My foot obeyed before I decided to. Chapter 8. The Moment Between. The car stopped beside the gate. Mary didn't open the door. She didn't vanish. Instead, she reached for my hand. I tried to pull away, but her fingers closed around mine with gentle certainty. Cold flooded my body. It rushed up my arm, across my chest, and into my throat, until breathing felt thick and difficult. The streetlight above us flickered. The iron gate trembled as if something heavy pressed against it from the other side. The world blurred, and for a heartbeat, I wasn't in my car anymore. I was outside a dance hall. I could smell cigarette smoke and perfume. I could hear laughter and music through the walls. I could see my breath in the night air. A girl in a white dress stepped outside and smiled as if she was invincible. Then headlights. White light swallowing everything. A scream that wasn't loud enough. The moment of impact arrived like a door slamming shut. I felt cold pavement. I felt fear. I felt the terrible loneliness of watching the dance hall lights through the trees while the world moved on without you. Mary's grip tightened, and with it came her panic, confusion turning to realization, realization turning to grief. I gasped and yanked my hand free. Mary screamed. The sound was not human. It cracked the air like glass. The streetlight burst overhead, showering sparks. The cemetery gate rattled violently. My car windows vibrated. Then the scream stopped. Silence fell like snow. Mary was gone. The passenger door was open. The seat beside me was damp, as if something cold had been sitting there too long. I slammed the door and drove away without looking back. Chapter 9. Proof in the Daylight. I tried the sane solution next. I tried daylight. On a Saturday afternoon with the sun high and traffic steady, I drove past Resurrection Cemetery again. In daylight, the place looked ordinary. An iron fence, trimmed grass, pale stones. Families walked the paths. A groundskeeper drove a small cart. Nothing about it looked like a doorway to a legend. I parked across the street anyway and sat with my hands on the steering wheel until my pulse slowed. I told myself, if it looks normal, then it is normal. But the moment I stepped onto the sidewalk in front of the gate, cold wrapped around my ankles like fog. The air was not cold anywhere else, only here, only in this strip of space beside the fence where I had dropped her off. I did not touch the bars, I just stood there. Behind the fence, the headstones stretched in rows. Most names were too far to read, but one section seemed to pull at my attention, like a magnet tugging metal. Near the front, one stone sat at an angle, worn by weather. The name was still visible. Mary. No last name I could see. No date I could read from the sidewalk. Just that one word carved into stone like it had been waiting for my eyes. A family walked past me laughing, and the normal sound should have made me feel ridiculous. Instead, it made me feel alone. That night, I woke at 3:12 again, and for the first time, I heard something that sounded like a car door closing gently in my hallway. Chapter 10. The Polite Knock. I stopped driving at night. I took ride shares. I asked friends for rides and made excuses about being tired. The truth was simpler. I was afraid of streetlights and empty shoulders and the way white fabric looks when it catches a headlight beam. One afternoon, I opened my car door and found a white glove on the passenger seat. I lived alone. No one had been in my car. The glove smelled faintly of old perfume and winter air. Inside the glove, stitched in neat cursive, I was a single name, Mary. I threw it away. Then, because I couldn't trust my own hands, I scrubbed my fingers until they were raw. That night, at 3:12, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. I stared at it until it stopped vibrating. Then it buzzed again. I answered without speaking. For a moment, there was only silence and faint crackle, like old radio static. Then I heard music. A slow song, distant, warped, like a dance tune coming from another room in another year. Over it, a soft voice whispered, close enough that it felt like breath on the line. Just close enough. The call ended. When I checked my call log, there was no record of it at all. Chapter 11. The Ones Who Almost Stop. After the phone call, I began to notice how often Archer Avenue appeared in conversation, not directly, not obviously. Someone would mention a shortcut. A rideshare driver would complain about construction. A coworker would talk about driving late to clear their head. Every time my stomach tightened. One evening, a colleague offered me a ride home. As we pulled out of the parking lot, he turned the wheel toward Archer without thinking. "Hey," I said quickly, "can we take a different way?" He laughed. "Why? You scared of that road?" I didn't answer fast enough. He glanced at me, curious now. "Resurrection, Mary?" The way he said it, amused, confident, reminded me of myself before the ride. "Just trust me," I said. "Don't drive there at night." He shrugged and turned away from Archer, but not before the headlights swept across the far sidewalk. For a split second, I thought I saw white fabric beneath a street lamp. My colleague slowed. "Did you see that?" he asked. "No," I said too quickly. "Just keep driving." He hesitated, then accelerated. I didn't breathe again until the streetlight disappeared behind us. That night, at 3:12, I woke with the sense that someone had been disappointed. Chapter 12. The driver who didn't laugh. I eventually met someone else who had stopped. Not at a bar, not as a joke. It was an older man at a gas station just off Archer. He noticed my car and asked if I drove the road often. Something in his voice told me he wasn't asking casually. "I used to," he said when I hesitated. "Before her." I didn't ask who he meant. "She sat right where you're sitting now," he continued, nodding toward my passenger seat. Didn't say much, just asked to be taken home. His hands shook as he spoke. "I dropped her at the gate," he said. "Watched her walk away, vanish. Same as the stories." I swallowed. "What happened after?" He looked at me then, really looked. "She didn't leave me alone," he said quietly. "Not like people think. No screaming, no chasing, just reminders." He rolled up his sleeve. On his wrist was a faint mark, pale and discolored, shaped almost like fingers. "She held me," he said. "One night I woke up and she was standing beside my bed, not touching me, just watching." "What did you do?" I asked. His mouth twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I moved," he said. "Changed my number, sold the car. I stopped listening." "Did it work?" He hesitated. "I don't drive after midnight anymore," he said. "That's how I know she's still out there." Chapter 13. The dance hall. I couldn't stop thinking about the dance, so I looked it up. Old records, newspaper clippings, community archives. There was a dance hall once not far from Archer. It burned down decades ago, rebuilt, repurposed, forgotten. But the articles remained. Local dances, weekend crowds, live bands, and then a short notice, buried near the classifieds. Young woman struck by vehicle late Saturday night, left dance hall alone, pronounced dead at the scene. No name in the clipping I found, just a photograph of the building. When I stared at the picture too long, I felt cold. That night, I dreamed of music drifting through walls. I dreamed of laughter cutting off too suddenly. I dreamed of standing outside, watching light spill through windows that no longer existed. At 3:12, I woke with the tune still in my head. Chapter 14. The invitation. The invitation arrived without an envelope. It was slipped under my door sometime after midnight. A single card, thick paper, yellowed with age. Dance, tonight, no address, no time. Just one detail written beneath in neat cursive. Everyone is waiting. I sat on my bed staring at it until dawn. That night, I did not sleep. At exactly 3:12, my phone buzzed again. This time there was no music. Only Mary's voice. "So close," she whispered. Chapter 15. Understanding the Wait. I finally understood then. Mary wasn't trying to cross over. She wasn't trapped between worlds. She wasn't searching for revenge. She was repeating the last normal thing she remembered, leaving the dance, asking for a ride, trying to get home. Every driver who stopped became part of that loop, a stand-in for the night that failed her. She didn't need you to die. She needed you to remember. That was worse, because remembrance doesn't end. Chapter 16. The Choice. I went back to Archer Avenue one final time, not to stop, not to look, just to drive through. As I passed the cemetery, my headlights caught the edge of a white dress beneath the streetlight. Mary stood there, arm raised. I did not slow. As I passed, I felt something brush the side of my car. Not a hit, not a grab. A touch, like fingers trailing along metal. The radio turned on by itself. The song was old, slow, fading. I kept driving until the road widened and the streetlights returned to normal spacing. Only then did the music stop. Chapter 17. What Remains. I still wake sometimes at 3:12. But now, when I listen, I don't feel fear. I feel distance. Like a road I once drove, but no longer need. Mary still walks Archer Avenue. She still waits beneath streetlights. But she waits for someone else now, someone who believes they're being kind, someone who thinks stopping won't matter. Epilogue, Archer Avenue. Still waits, years have passed. I've moved. I've changed jobs. I've tried to become the kind of person who leaves old stories behind. Resurrection Cemetery is still there. Archer Avenue still stretches beside it like a line drawn too straight for safety. People still talk about Mary. They say she appears more often in early winter when the air is sharp and the night comes early. They say she looks hopeful when headlights approach. They say she always asks politely. If you see a girl in a white dress on Archer Avenue, keep driving. Not because she is evil, because she is lonely. And loneliness has gravity. It can pull you farther than fear ever could. Once you stop, she remembers you. Once she remembers you, you become part of her story. And she never finished hers. Sometimes I still wake in the dark and check the clock without thinking. 3:12. I lie very still and listen, as if silence itself might contain footsteps. Most nights, there is nothing. But once in a while, when the wind is right, I swear I hear it. 2 soft knocks, careful and patient from somewhere far away. Not demanding, not angry, just waiting. As if a girl in a white dress is standing beneath a streetlight, arm raised, certain that sooner or later someone will stop. You have been listening to American Haunted Tales.
Thank you for watching.